Inside with the Guides, a podcast where local guides introduce us to their destination and share with us highlights, tips, and personal preferences about the places where they live and work. We are Chile Signature, an entrepreneurship created by tour managers and professionals of tourism, with the dream of sharing the natural beauty of Chile through responsible tourism. We are constantly searching to fulfill our client bucket list. Through each episode, get an insight of each destination. Take more than a picture, learn more than a fact. The real experience only comes with locals. Join us. Welcome to this episode dedicated to Valparaíso, a cool, interesting and funky city, home to artists, poets and famous muralists. Today, our guest is the Vice President of Valparaíso's Guides Association. He born in Chile, he was raised in New York and came back later to the city of Valparaíso. He started his career as a local guide in the city in 2006. He's also a well-known sommelier, and in 2012 he started doing graffitis and murals all over Valparaíso and also in the city of Viña del Mar. He has appeared in National Geographic, Lonely Planet, among many other articles. So let's welcome to Álvaro. Álvaro, are you there?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
All right. Just dealing with this, enclosement, I guess you want to call it. It's
the quarantine, yes. Okay, well, this is a special episode dedicated to the city of Valparaíso, and we are with the specialist today, you. So let's start with some few questions we have so people can learn and understand a little better about this destination, the beautiful port of Valparaíso. Let us know more about your destination and why we should visit Valparaíso.
Well, Valparaíso is a very interesting destination to see for many, many reasons. Let's say you're a food and wine lover. This is a great place you could come to. Also, if you like art, this is probably the home of street art of all of Chile, one of the top places to visit it in South America. If you like just, being by the water, you have many beaches nearby. You could take boat rides and sail around the bay. There's so much to do. Plus, the city is very unique. I think people don't realize that there's a city like this, which could be very well a European city, but over here in South America. And I think when people think of South America, I don't think Valparaíso is one of the things that comes up. So it's definitely one of those places that you should learn more about and try to see.
Okay, so let's talk about the Valparaíso city itself. Can you give us 3 tips where to go, or maybe where to eat, or maybe what to do that for you is kind of a must and people usually don't go?
Yeah, Valparaíso is a city that has somewhere around 45 hills, and I say somewhere around because there are a lot of discrepancies in terms of how many hills there actually are. Some say 42, some say 44, some say 48, 46. We're going to keep it at 45, which is what I was taught, minus Miraflores, but whatever. The thing is, there's 45 hills. So there's a lot of different areas you can visit. For example, if you go towards the Playa Ancha neighborhood, is completely different than Esperanza or Placeres, which are at the other end. So I'm going to point out a couple of hills I like to see and some stuff that's not even on the hills, just downtown or by the coast. So the first one I would say a must-see is the former prison. The former prison, the ex-cárcel, is up on the prison hill or Cerro Cárcel. Very interesting place because you get a view of the city kind of being outside of the main tourist area, because this is just a couple of blocks away from the entrance to Cerro Concepción and Alegre. So it's pretty cool to be able to see the city from this kind of B side per se. So ex-cárcel, you go in there, there's a park, they have theaters, an auditorium, obviously restrooms, very important because we don't have many public restrooms in the city as a fact. So that's one of the places where they have restrooms. And then also they opened up a new wing where you have these gardens, and alongside of these gardens, they kind of tell you the story of the prison. And then they also have some graffitis that were painted like 20, 25, almost 30 years ago. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to see along there. And then obviously, like I said, just to relax, it's a cool getaway right within the city.
It's a self guide visit, or there is people there that can show you the place.
For now, it's self-guided.
Okay.
But if you take a city tour, of course, your guide should be able to show you around. It's not a tough place to learn a lot of history from, because I mean, even though it has two or three very important historical facts, it's not one of those places where you have to spend 2 hours just talking history.
Okay. Okay.
There's a lot more than just that. There's also just, like I said, relaxing, getting in the views, being able to paint right outside. There's a lot of stuff that's cool there. So it's a very broad place for a visit right within the city.
Nice. Thanks. What about the places to go and eat something?
Um, there's a lot of those. I'm a big fan of two. I'm going to give you two.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is called Moneda de Oro. Moneda de Oro used to be what we call a hole in the wall. It's one of these little places that you go into. You're like, I don't think we should eat here, but it actually, when it moved to its new destination where it is now, it used to be in Plaza Aníbal Pinto. Now it moved over to a street named O'Higgins, just a couple of blocks from there. And so basically on O'Higgins Street, right across the street from the regional government building, the Intendencia. They moved there, and now it's a spot that every day, if you go for lunch at 1, it's packed. Like you can't get in. They have the best, in my opinion, right now, the best chorrillanas, which is a dish that was created here. Um,
Can you let us know what is that?
yeah, the chorrillana, the original chorrillana was just potatoes, like fried, like French fries, had fried onions, and then they would put beef on top of them. Then they started adding sausages, and then some would even add an egg to it, and then like
Wow.
cheese, and it became like this huge thing. Obviously, it's not something one person alone should try to eat. You can try it, but I don't know if that's the best idea. For heart attack reasons. And then, if you have it between two or three people, it's probably the best thing. Usually, you get it with a beer or something. It's a local dish. Like I said, it was created here. Um, but for in my opinion, this is one of the places where they have it. If you go on like a Friday or Saturday night, they tend to have a this trio comes in that they play with like a stand up bass. They play certain like cool like jazzy music, and then of course they do the the cueca porteña, which is the national dance. Porteña being the local style because you have very many variations of cueca.
Yeah.
So one of them is cueca porteña, and then this trio comes in. They start playing cueca porteña, and you're just eating the local dish, listening to local music with local people. So as far as like non-touristy places to eat, that's probably one of my favorites. You know,
That's the monedita de oro then.
moneda de oro. Yeah, the moneda.
Okay. Moneda de oro. And you had another one, right?
Yeah, the other one's called the Capri. Capri is a more of a restaurant. Like this place Moneda de Oro is kind of like that afternoon. You can go and have their like daily meals there at lunch, but I would go there more in the evenings. For like dinner and then like the music or whatever. But if you want to have like a sit down lunch, something very very local, Capri is probably my favorite. They're considered the best local picada. Picada is a small restaurant normally, even though this one's pretty big. It tends to be a small restaurant that has stuff that's bueno, bonito, y barato. So it's good, nice, and cheap. And Capri for about $15 US, I guess. I would like 10,000 pesos. You can have a full meal, with wine, appetizers, main course, dessert, everything. So it's a really cool place. It's right next to Plaza Sotomayor, and they have mainly Chilean food. I don't think they have anything that's like that's not of Chilean origin.
Nice, nice. Very good. Thank you. So let's say that there is people that comes to the city of Valparaíso and they want to visit and they get a written guide and there is a lot of information about the city of Valparaíso to probably do on their own sometimes, which is really hard sometimes because of the labyrinth of the city. But in your opinion, can you share something that in your specific opinion it's kind of a must, but tourists don't know about to do in the city?
Um, I would go with Tornamesa Varón, probably being one of them. So basically, Tornamesa is this place where they used to park all the trains, like a train yard, but it has a different name. It looks like like a disc jockey's table. That's why it's called Tornamesa. So I forget the name of it, but anyway, it's like a train yard, and it became abandoned. I don't know, I want to say like 30 years ago, 20, 25 years ago, became abandoned when or maybe less, about 20 something years ago, when the new trains came in. They took the old ones, which were a 1970 and 77 Model AES train, which is what I remember before moving to the States, where the conductor would come on the train, and they'd click away at your tickets, and the seats were old and leather and sort of like greenish touch. Everything was kind of dark. You had like a peach color to the walls. Like, it was a really old experience, and I'm kind of upset that they got rid of that and they only have the new trains. But yeah, they pretty much threw the old trains in there. They just abandoned them. And then when graffiti got really big, like 2010, all the graffiti artists started climbing in there. Obviously without permission. They started climbing in there at night and painting all the trains and painting all the walls. Eventually, there's these guys who do, excuse me, mountain climbing. Um, Within the space, they've created like this mountain climbing experience, where you go in, and they teach you how to climb and how to rappel down the walls, etc. And these guys, they now have the administration of the place. So we went in there once. I being myself being a graffiti artist, I went in there and I said, "Hey, can I be allowed to paint here?" And they go, "Yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. Just make sure it's not political or offensive." And I go, "All right, cool." So I started painting. A lot of my friends are doing the same thing. There was already a lot of graffiti there. This was about 2 or 3 years ago, and now they've done like festivals there, and it's just full of art. It's abandoned, so it's a cool place for sure. And
Do you think it's an easy access for a foreign person?
yeah, yeah, you just get over to Metro Varon and you
Hmm.
start walking towards the coast. Metro Varon is the second to last stop before leaving Valparaíso on the train. So if you take a train, let's say from Estación Puerto, which is the first one, you advance towards Bellavista, then Francia, and then comes Metro Varon. You hop off there, you walk towards the water, and you're gonna see an abandoned deck. Yeah, like an abandoned deck, or like pier, and then you walk
Hmm.
over to the right, and you have the entrance. Just like 2 minutes, you have the entrance to Tornamesa Varon. It's hidden, I guess, because not many people know that once you're at Baron, you can walk over the ocean, and then there's this hidden place. But it's a cool place to visit. I take most of my tours out there when we do bike tours, so they all love it because there's just so much art in there. It's so cool.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
It sounds something that you must go and visit. Um, let me ask you about yourself because you live in the city too. So it's always interesting to know where do you go in your spare time that is unique of Valparaiso, something that you really like, and this says, "Oh, this is the reason. This is one of the reasons why I live in this place instead of any other city." What do you do in your spare time?
Well, for me, it's painting. I have two big passions, I guess, in Valparaíso. One of them is
Hmm.
bike riding, which is just I've done all my life, and the other one's graffiti, which I've read all my life, and I started doing here in Valparaíso more seriously in 2012. My first encounters with graffiti were back in 1993. So I guess, yeah, when I started doing it more like serious, I took it up in 2012, and I was doing the graffiti tour parallel to that. A year before that, I'd come up with the idea, hey, it'd be cool to show the murals. 2012, I started doing the tour and painting. 2014, I was just really painting like every day, and that's what I do in my spare time. When I have spare time, I like to go to different parts of Valparaiso and just knock on people's doors and say, "Hey, can I paint the side of your house?" And most of them agree.
Really?
Yeah, most of them just
Wow.
agree. So it's a lot of fun. And because you have a sense of responsibility, like this isn't graffiti the way you imagine it, where somebody wearing a hoodie, and a mask goes downtown and writes on a government building. This is graffiti experienced differently because you're kind of in a way helping out a community. You're like, I'm gonna put color to this very dead place. So
Right.
it's a very
Yeah.
cool experience for sure.
And you still that today? Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I mean, with everything going on, obviously, I haven't been able to go out. But what's cool about it, that in the project I created, I take people to live this experience. So people come from all over the world, and I teach them basically how to paint on people's houses, and they realize, after the end, that they didn't just do something that was fun. They did something that the locals were gonna keep, like as a gift. Like, you just painted my house for me, thank you. So it's a cool experience.
What is the name of that project?
We're called Valpo Street Art Tours.
Nice.
We're actually on Instagram as Valpo Street Art Tours.
Hmm.
And basically, we upload stuff all the time uh, regarding to that, to painting on the walls, to just who's painting, what artists are around town. The scene also is very lively because sometimes a lot of artists paint, other times very few people paint, so it has its ups and downs, and it's a really interesting project, I think.
Mm, very interesting. Alvaro, guides always obviously knows a lot of history about the places. When we visit those places, there is a reason why we have a guide, and it's because they can get us the insights and very, very good history of the place. But I know that you also like to talk about stories behind the scenes, let's say. And I don't know if you can share with us any of your preferred stories of Valparaiso.
Yeah, well, when I started guiding, my story on how I started guiding, I'm going to tell you that first in order to put some relevance to what I'm about to tell you as a story. I started guiding in 2006. I had only been here for about a month when I went to pick up my brother who was already living in Chile at the terminal. And I saw this little house on it that said information, you know? And I went up to them and I go, hey, you guys look for people who speak English? And they go, yeah. I was like, oh, all right. Then I picked up my brother and left. And I thought about it for a few days while he was visiting. And when I went to drop him off, I said, all right, I'm going to offer them, like, trying to work, maybe a low wage. It doesn't matter because I just got here. I don't know anything about the city, but maybe I could use my English. And they said, hey, so you speak native English? And I go, yeah, I grew up in New York. I've been there since I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. And they go, all right, so how about you start as a tour guide tomorrow? And I go, I don't think that's possible because I only know there's one street called Pratt, and I think there's another one called Esmeralda. That's all I know about the city. And the lady, not really caring, and obviously in a lack of people, she goes, you know what? Here, learn these 4 places, and you start tomorrow. And she wrote down on a piece of paper, El Trole, 21 de Mayo, Cerro Alegre, and Plaza Sotomayor. That's all she wrote, like all those 4 things. And I was supposed to go out and do like a 6-hour tour the next day. So at that
Wow.
time, without, had it been now where you can just Wikipedia everything or just, Google anything you don't know, it's like, all right. But back then, you didn't have that access to your hands. A cell phone was used for calling people. So
Yeah.
basically, I just went to the library, I remember, and then I went to Cyber Cafe. I learned about those 4 places. I printed them out, and I had all these printed sheets, just folded in my pocket, and just trying to memorize in 1946, blah 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 blah. Like, so. As soon as I got there, the people were Brazilians, and they're like, "Hey, we don't care about history." I was like, "Whoa." That kind of kills everything. that
Yeah, of course.
She's like, where are you gonna take us? I was like, this way. And I just started walking down Pedro Mon. I went up to one of the hills, and I just, I don't think I gave them much of a tour, but they were really happy at the end because I realized that day that touring wasn't just about the information or what you saw on television, like to the left you have this. It's not like that. It's touring is people asking you about yourself, telling you about their life, where they live, what you eat, what they eat. So 6 hours wasn't long enough. I even went shopping with them. I remember, like for clothing, So like it was so much fun that I was like, all right, I gotta still learn. It took a while, and one of the first stories I heard was a story of Barison and Schiavon. And that's because there's Palacio Baburiza, which is a fine arts museum in Cerro Alegre, and it had two names, Barison and Schiavon. So I looked up information on Google. This was a few years later when I really wanted to get into it some more. It said that Barison and Schiavon had created the house for the ambassador of Austria up on Paseo 21 de Mayo, blah, blah, blah. To me, that wasn't very interesting. The interesting thing was that they said that Barison and Schiavon came here completely broke, and then they ended up becoming very rich. And then nowadays, I think like 6 or 7 years passed, and now we have Google and all that stuff. So I Googled Arnaldo Barison. There's a website to Arnaldo Barison dedicated to him. He was not broke when he came here. Actually, him and his family were very, very well off up in Trieste in Italy. The Trieste, so you get an idea, is like right on the border of Slovenia. So this was a very, very well off family, that was that was over there. I can't remember if it's his sister or his brother was a famous piano player, and then so they were a very wealthy family, and he decided after looking at maps, like, I want to go to Valparaíso, Chile. I don't know what he had what he had heard or who told him like there's Valparaíso, but it was that time, the early 1900s when Valparaíso was still the Valparaíso. So this guy's like, I really want to go to Valparaíso. He comes out here, he starts working as an architect right away, and he meets a guy who's from an area called Vigonza. So Vigonza is, so you get an idea, about a 2 hour drive from Trieste. It's like going, I don't know, from Valparaíso to like the end of Santiago to Las Condes. So it was just rare for him to find someone in Valparaíso, which is the end of the world, that a city that not many people had heard about, and then you had two guys from not only the same country, but from only 2 hours away living in the same city, you know? So he starts talking to him. He goes, "Oh, well, if you're an architect, please build my house." And they create Casa Peraga. And Casa Peraga, to me, is probably one of the most beautiful places you can find in Valparaiso. It's this house that is a mix of Art Nouveau and neoclassic sort of architecture. It's completely white, and then all the frames are golden with blue. I don't know. It's just a really beautiful place, and it's hidden. Casa Peraga is not a place that I could give you a map and you go, and tell you like, oh, just follow the map and you'll get there. It's really tough to find where it is, and it's also close to downtown. So it's one of those places that, as a tour guide, I like to take people and tell them
Nice,
that
yeah.
story. Like, what were the odds that this guy came all the way from Trieste out here, and then he runs into another guy who's from only 2 hours away, and they created this beautiful house, which is now just, has one of the most beautiful gardens and everything. And it's now just a regular house in the city. So, yeah, it's one of the cool stories I like to tell people.
Fantastic. Very, very interesting story. I loved it. Thank you. Alvaro, you mentioned something about the graffitis, but I know that you have another passion that is also very, very important for the city of Valparaiso and the region as well, which is the wine. Do you want to tell us a little more about this passion?
When I started guiding in 2006, like I told you, I was learning little by little. It took me about 2 years to become I want to say like a pro guide on Valparaiso. There's a lot of studying behind Valparaiso. It's not one of those cities that you can say, all right, I've learned everything. I'm still learning about Valparaiso. And one of the things I got into was wine, because I was doing tours that ended in Santiago, and they had that stop at a couple of wineries in Casablanca. And I remember that they were short staffed. They didn't have enough people at the wineries in Casablanca. So I remember this one girl, I think her name was Francisca or Francesca or something like that. She said, "Hey Al, great to see you again. Can you help me out? Like you've done my tours enough, so you've memorized them. Can you take this other group?" So I was with a group of 6. I ended up taking a group of 30. She had another group of 30, and this was the beginning of Casablanca Valley, like 2008, 7. It was around there. So basically, I was taking people around the winery, talking about something I didn't know. I was saying, well, this cask, not knowing what a cask was. I just had a general idea. It's for this, but I didn't know much more about it. And being as curious as I am, I went to a restaurant with a group one day, and a girl comes up. She serves us, and she had a little pin that said Escuela de Sommeliers de Chile. And I was like, "There's a school?" And she says, "Yeah, it's in Bella Vista. That's where it was at the time. Now it's in New York." And I went to the school. I started signing up like 2009, like sending emails trying to get accepted. I got accepted 2010 for a class that would begin in 2011. So I remember being accepted in like June of 2010, and then I would start March of 2011. So it was a long process just getting accepted there. Very prestigious school at the time, created by all the sommeliers in Chile. So I studied wine with the intention of being a wine connoisseur sommelier / tour guide, which I later on became sommelier / tour guide / artist. So I have a specialty that would allow me to, to get to a certain crowd of people better than anyone else. So, I wanted to be able to cater to this public, So
fantastic. Yeah.
So yeah, I got into that. Casablanca is only 25 to 30 minutes from here. You have amazing white wines, amazing Pinots, amazing Syrah in the reds. And also one of the things I love about, wine country is the fact that you can literally take a bike out there, just throw it in the bus that they have that goes out there every 15, 20 minutes. There's a bus that goes out to Casablanca. You can rent a bike, put it in the trunk, whatever, and then they drive you out there, and you can ride your bike all day through Casablanca, and then just as like, for example, for families who don't necessarily want to drink, maybe they'll buy a bottle at a winery and that's it, and not necessarily have to drink. It's a great experience because it's a bike friendly city, Casablanca. And then if you want to drink, obviously you can take a tour. Vehicle will drive you to different wineries, etc. Normally you do 3 to 4, and then come back. But it's cool because it's versatile in that way. Even though it's a wine destination, it's pretty enough so you can kind of just not have to drink that day and just kind of ride around it. So it's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We are arriving to the end of this episode, and I want to thank the Guides Association of Valparaíso to put us in contact with you. And I also want, of course, to thank you. And can you give us any website or information if people wants to contact you or the association, where we can find you?
Yeah, the association has a website. It's called AGTValparaíso.com, agtvalparaiso.com, agtvalparaiso.com, and that's where you can find all of our information. And then you can find me at getawaysdiscoveries either .com or gdsouthamerica.com, where I have all my projects, which is not only the street art and the wine, but also I do a lot of other stuff, and it's all in there.
Well, thank you very much, Álvaro. It's been great, and I hope that we can contact you soon then. Okay?
It was great talking to you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. Insights with Guides. If you want to know more, you can visit our website www.chilesignature.com, as well our social media. Join us soon on another episode when we will visit a different destination in our country. Chile Signature. Experience, passion, and commitment at your service. Stay tuned.